I started first grade at St. Joseph's Catholic School, I was a terrible reader. I was in reading group number 3. There was no reading group number 4. Perhaps it was a casualty of being the youngest of 11 children. I had wonderful parents, but by number 11, my folks expected a lot to happen via osmosis. And I'm sure I learned wonderful things from my siblings via osmosis, but reading was not one of them. My first grade teacher, Sister Agnes Marie Sitter, spent her Saturday mornings teaching me. My mom would drop me off at the convent, and Sister Agnes would bake me chocolate chip cookies and teach me how to read. Now, I should clarify a bit. I certainly knew how to read words like cat, dog, red, blue, but I didn't grasp that words held stories. Until one day, over Sister's cookies, it clicked, and she unlocked a whole new world for me. I actually saw Sister Agnes a few years ago. She looks exactly the same as she looked in 1972. I was at a reception at St. Scholastica Priory, and I spotted her across the room. So I went up to her, introduced myself, and said, Sister, you probably don't remember me, but you taught me to read. After spending Monday through Friday with a bunch of first graders, you spent your Saturday mornings teaching me, and you instilled in me a love of stories. And tears streamed down both of her cheeks, and she said, phonetics, it's really just all about phonetics. She couldn't say thank you, you know? It would be somehow too self-congratulatory, or she would exercise this in a pride. As a theater director, my primary job is to tell stories, and the most important part of my job is to carefully choose the stories we tell. Right now, we are in rehearsals for the world premiere of a musical adaptation of 12 Angry Men. I don't know if any of you recall the old television film, black and white, starring Henry Fonda as the hero, juror number 8. 12 Angry Men is set in a New York City courthouse in 1957. It centers around a murder trial. 12 jurors need to decide the fate of a Latino teenager accused of killing his father. If convicted, the teenager will be put to death. 11 jurors believe he is guilty, but one, number 8, asks that they spend an hour discussing the case. What ensues is a blistering character study of what it means to be a man in America, and an intense examination of the American judicial system that is only as impartial as the members of its jury. It's about racism, ageism, about conscious and unconscious bias, about toxic masculinity, you know, all those things that are perfect source material for a musical comedy. Other than deciding that our characters would sing, our first decision, and the most important one, was that it would be a multiracial cast, unlike the original film, and that the hero would be a person of color. The writers and I agreed that we already had plenty of stories in the canon about racism with a white hero at the center. To Kill a Mockingbird, Mississippi Burning, The Help, the list goes on. We were slated to premiere the show in June of 2020. We had finished the script, completed the score, assembled a first-rate cast, but COVID had a different plan. And to be honest, I am so grateful for the postponement. Following the murder of George Floyd, I asked the writers if we could take a step back and revisit the entire script and the entire score, that perhaps there was a more nuanced conversation to be had, that perhaps we and the entire ensemble needed to have those difficult, painful, and important conversations with the same rigor as the characters who inhabit the story, because innocent lives were and are at stake. Our cast brought to that process not only a diversity of lived experience, but also wisdom, courage, and an emotional intelligence that allowed us to tell, or demanded us to tell, a different, more nuanced, and hopefully more just story. We have a handful of that cast here today: Curtis Banister, Mychael Rambo, Bradley Greenwald, and Adán Varla, along with our pianist and conductor, Russ Kaplan. We'd love to share a few songs from the show with you this morning. Curtis Banister. Please welcome to the stage, Curtis Banister. Curtis Banister is juror number 8. In this number, he pleads with his fellow jurors to step into the shoes of a teenager on trial. He is unsure whether the child is innocent or guilty, but he is sure of the fact that justice can only prevail when the decision makers practice empathy.
A boy is trembling in his cell, determined he'll be brave. Denied the chance to say farewell beside his daddy's grave. A man is dead, another may die. The daylight slanting through the bars is hard and stark and bleak. He hears the whispers of the cars. He shrugs to brush his cheek and stares ahead, too macho to cry, until lights out when no one sees him in his dark despair. Life held so much promise, not so very long ago. And now, at this young tender age, his future fades to black. He curls up in his concrete cage, where he can't go back. With prayers unsaid, too much for reply, and then lights out when thoughts and fears rush in from everywhere. Does he understand that his next stop could be death row? So I'll choose to put myself in his shoes. How can compassion be such an irrational trait? Will no one else here concede that evidence can mislead? What if we were tricked and were rushed to convict just to find out all too late, and then lights out and we're the ones who gave some kid the chair? All we can be sure of is there's so much we don't know.
The jury room has a moment of reprieve when a thunderstorm interrupts the escalating tension. This following number is a private moment between juror number 11, a German immigrant who escaped during World War II, and juror number 6, a first-generation Mexican-American who is navigating a broken immigration system, Bradley Greenwald and Adán Varla.
Raindrops in constant collision often play tricks on the vision. Faces and memories enthralling, borne on the falling waves. house of my mother, fade one on top of the other. Eyes of my father imploring, ashes and pouring rain. I never see them again. There is no end to what men will do unto men. Sure as the atoms are spinning, now just as at the beginning, nations will ever be warring, sure as a pouring rain.
Quite the case, right?
Quite the case, yes.
Imagine killing your own father.
No, I cannot,
I love my papa.
as I loved mine.
Oh, he passed or something?
Yes, something.
It's a damn shame.
You are fortunate you still have your father.
Well, he was taken away a few years ago. Papers and stuff.
Ah, yes, papers.
I miss him.
As do I. And so my heart, it keeps calling, sure as a falling rain.
We'll be sharing a couple more songs later in the service. It occurs to me that if Sister Agnes first gave me a love of story, it was the Catholic Mass that first instilled with me a love for music. So it is a wonderful thing to be here with you on this promising spring morning. And now, I don't want to brag, but by the time I got to Sister Rosella's class, I was in reading group number 1. Thanks for having me.